Hey, what's up guys? I'm Ben and I'm a hobbyist woodworker working out of my single car garage workshop. Today I thought I'd take you on a tour around the workshop to show you what tools I've got, how I organise it, what I plan to change going forwards, along with some tips and tricks that I use that may be of use to you in your workshop. Let's check it out. So this is my workshop from the outside. I'm fortunate enough that this is a detached garage at the bottom of the garden, which means that the noise I make has minimum disruption on the neighbours. So this is the workshop. It measures 6 meters or 20 feet by 3 meters or 10 feet. Let's get started right here. This cabinet here is the one that I've reserved for my family. I allow them to keep a few bits and pieces in here from some stuff that doesn't fit in the house and some garden equipment. I try and limit how much stuff they can keep in here, and I'm slowly kicking them out so they can build a shed, put all their stuff in the garden. But for now, there's still little pieces of their stuff dotted around. This is Molly. She's my shop dog and she loves cuddles and licking stuff. Don't you, Molly? Give me a cuddle. I recently installed these super bright LED lights and they absolutely transform the space. It's amazing how dull the space was before I installed these. And frankly, I'm surprised I was able to do much in here at all. On the side of this cupboard there was a lot of empty space, so I thought it would be the perfect place for me to hang my clamps up. I built some little clamp holders, just basically cutting slots in pieces of wood and then attached them to the side of the cabinet. It works really well. I've got some really long sash clamps, I've got some shorter sash clamps, I've got a bunch of F clamps. All of these are cheapo Amazon ones and they've never done me wrong. Don't believe what they say, you don't have to spend a fortune in clamps, you just have to find some reasonable quality ones. I've got some little squeeze clamps again, basically the cheapest ones I could find, and they're all doing me really well. Down below I've got a band clamp and a 45-degree mitre clamp as well. This is my tool wall. I use it for all my go-to tools that I grab regularly. I've built some custom holders using bits of scrap wood or screws or even some of these magnetic strips, which I rave about. They're really, really good. However, I'm thinking I might tweak it at some point to make it a little bit more versatile. So I'm thinking either some of those metal wall control panels or perhaps building a French cleat wall. I'd love to know your thoughts though, so let me know in the comments what you think would be better to use. Underneath the tool wall, I've got my Titan planer thicknesser. This is basically the cheapest planer thicknesser that you can get in the UK. It does a decent job. It's not the best. The fence for jointing isn't perfect at all, but actually I've used this quite a lot and the warranty that it comes with is fantastic. I would like to upgrade it at some point, but I haven't got thousands of pounds like some of these other YouTubers that you'll find out there. So for now, this will have to do. I've mounted this on a mobile base. This mobile base actually used to be my very first workbench when I first got into this workshop. I built it out of scraps that I found in the loft. It did me okay, but it's very small to try and build a piece of furniture on. Underneath this, I've got some storage, and then next door to it here, I've got this, which is my Erbauer sprayer. I'm thinking about doing a review on this, so if you're interested in seeing a review on the Erbauer paint sprayer, drop me a note in the comments and I'll make sure I get to it soon. I like to recycle stuff, so all of these cabinets and units that you'll see in here are all salvaged units from an old kitchen. I will build my own custom ones at some point, but if you want to get started and build a cheap, easy workshop, salvaging some kitchen cabinets is definitely the way to go. I painted these, added some trim to the worktop, I built some decidedly dodgy door handles for it. All things that I'm going to change in due course, but to get started straight away, there's no easier option than this. Let's see what's in the cabinets. So starting with the corner cabinet next to my tool wall, if we have a look in here, I've got all my drills, drivers, nail gun, Craig pocket hole jig and another drill here. Got drills coming out my ears. These are from Lumberjack Tools, then the nail gun. I did a review on both of these recently, so check them out in the description. And these are my DeWalt drills, which I've had for a long time as well. All great tools, really, really good. There's a review for the Craig 720 as well if you're looking for it. I've got this one, which has all my PPE on one shelf, glues on another shelf, screws on another shelf, and as you can see, it's fit to bursting. So again, I need to address this and maybe do something with it. Underneath these cabinets, I've got spare screws, wall plugs, bits and pieces like that, various hardware, a few Allen keys and stuff stored there. One of these magnetic trays, which means I can just lob stuff on it and I'm not going to lose them, which is really helpful. And then I like to keep this space clear for when I come into the workshop and I'm bringing something new in. I can just dump it on here and I can deal with it in due course without interrupting my workflow or my projects. Quick shout out to Sean in the Shed for giving me this. This is a great little project manual where you can list all your parts, how much you need, do your designs and your drawings for everything that you need to do. It's a great little workflow manual, so I'll put a link to that in the description. So in these cupboards underneath, I've got all my finishing supplies in here. So all my paints, varnishes, all that kind of thing, all lives in this cupboard. And then in this one, I've got a load more lumberjack tools, got lights, jigsaws, all sorts of things in there. Sometimes I'll open this cupboard up and there's something else going on in it. Weird. So in this cupboard, I keep some of my paper manuals, just in case I ever want to feel old school and refer to them. I've got a set of files in here, a tool belt and bits and pieces. This is pretty cool. I got this. This is a from 1960 Stanley No. 4 plane. Pretty banged up, but it came with the original instructions and everything as well, so I'm thinking I might do a little frame for that at some point. Cool. I only got it for £15 off Facebook as well. Bargain. And then underneath that I've got my biscuit jointer, chisels, some drill bits, some squares, Forstner bits and a couple of other bits and pieces in that one. Then in the cupboard next to that I've got a few bits and pieces, electrical reel, that kind of thing. I've got some saws down here, so I've got my Erbauer track saw, which is pretty good. Then I've got my lumberjack tools, battery circular saw, and the reciprocating saw as well. Really good tools. I'll probably be doing a review on them at some point soon. Here's my McAllister miter saw, which is really old. McAllister's one of our own brands with B&Q. It's again a second-hand one that I got. It slides backwards rather than some of the new fancy ones that come pull towards you. This one slides backwards, so rather than having an entire workspace all the way back out here and having to completely configure the kitchen units that I've got, I built this little drawer unit. It does two things. A, it gives me that space behind when I need it, but B, it also means that I've got a level playing field for when I want to lay big pieces of timber down and give it more support. Works well. It's a little bit wobbly, but does the job for me for now. I am going to change this saw over at some point for a proper one that slides towards me. That'll come in due course. Underneath my miter saw, I've got a bin and I've got my shop vac. This shop vac is the Lumberjack BDE 1100 and it's done a good job for me over the years. I did a review on it recently, so I'll stick a note to that one in the description for you so you can watch it later on. Everything on my shop vac is stuck with silver duct tape, the same as all the rest of my tools, because nothing seems to fit quite right, but that seems to be a case across all tools and all brands. Then if we pan up from my miter saw, I've got a bit of a timber unit there. It's just some basic shelving brackets with some hardwood in boards that are stacked and stickered. Above the unit I've got a lot of storage in the roof where I keep a lot of timber. Let's go and have a look. In here is where I keep most of my cobwebs, along with some of the wood as well. So next to my miter station, I've got my tools that I use less frequently, such as my oscillating spindle sander, my benchtop pillar drill, and my benchtop bandsaw. Bandsaw's currently not got a blade in it because I snapped it recently and haven't got a new one yet. These ones get used less frequently. I've got power here, which I've hooked up recently. So at least I can run them from here rather than having to move them, which is what I used to have to do. However, I don't feel that they need a big dedicated space for them. I might do something different with them in the future, but for now this works absolutely fine. Below those machines I've got a cabinet here with a toolbox, some plumbing stuff, some other random tool stuff and a few paint supplies. Top drawer has painting supplies. I've got some brushes and some rollers and bits and pieces in there. Middle drawer, all just rags. Bit to burst in. Good thing about having growing kids, you never run out of rags. And then the bottom drawer is my drawer of shame. It's where I keep all of my router bits, routers, accessories, all that kind of thing. As you can see, it is not organised at all. It's an absolute mess. I've got my 1/2" Triton router, I've got my 1/4" plunge firm router, and I've got my 1/4" Katsu trim router, along with a bunch of different router bits, fences, all sorts of stuff in there. I am building a router table at the moment, so hopefully once I've got that, this one will come straight out and this will live in the router table. But until then, I need to just deal with this, and I'm going to tidy it all up once I've done my router table. I have a bunch more old kitchen cabinets that were actually in here when I moved in. They were about this high though, so a really weird position, so I moved them up here. I use them to store empty toolboxes, dust sheets, all sorts of random stuff. Here's a little tip for you. Get your old pieces of timber, cut them up into a small size, keep them on hand, use them as paint serving sticks, don't bin them. So this is my timber storage rack where I tend to keep all my pallet wood and offcuts of sheet goods and random bits and pieces like that. I actually made this using salvaged wood again that I found in the loft here when I moved in. You'll see there's a theme here. I don't like to buy stuff, quite cheap, and I like to salvage things where I can. So all the kitchen units are salvaged, all the wood for this is salvaged, all the wood in my original workbench is salvaged. Actually, all the framework in my current workbench is salvaged as well. All I did was to pay for a piece of MDF. So I try and be thrifty when I can. Now this is the end of my workshop, where you can see I've got a garage door. This door is really old and knackered, so it falls off the hinges whenever I try and open it. I'm going to replace the door at some point, and I'm toying with whether I get a roller door or actually look at building some barn style doors which will open outwards. Might be a really cool project to do. As it stands though, I've just blocked this up with everything that I've got around it. This is Derek. Derek's a skeleton. Say hi, Derek. Hi, Derek. Thanks, Derek. You're welcome. Derek? So I've got some more of my family crap dotted around here. Then I've got this basic metal shelving unit, which I tend to keep all my hardwoods in. Everything on here is all salvage. There's some old oak floor in here, bits of an old door, some old furniture that I've taken apart and dismantled, and random offcuts. I've got this sapele here. This is off a set of stairs which my dad managed to salvage, which is pretty cool. And then I've got a few more pieces. I tend to keep little offcuts of plywood and MDF because I think I've got a problem. But I try and be quite ruthless with it generally and get rid of the stuff that I don't need. So this is my massive workbench. I built this using some salvaged timber from a load of old cupboards that I knocked out, and then bought this sheet of MDF, which is the only thing that I've paid for all of my furniture and cabinetry in this workshop. That, and I think I even salvaged the metal storage system from there actually. I never bought that either. Underneath here, there's some pretty cool stuff there. Underneath here, I've got loads of salvaged hardwood, but the most exciting thing I've got under here is an entire dismantled 1950s solid oak church pulpit that I managed to salvage from a church nearby that was ripping out and getting a new one put in. So I literally went in, we took it away, and I've now got it under here. I am slowly but surely trying to sort of take off the old finish on stuff, keeping the patina and the wear that's on everything. And I think my plan for this is I'm going to build a cool bar or something. So that's a project that I've been working on for a very long time, on and off, just bits and pieces here and there. Like I say, there's lots of little fiddly bits to do in here. Tons of solid little pieces that all need the finish taken off them, and then figuring out what I'm going to do with it. I've got a massive piece of mahogany here, all sorts of pieces of beech and everything. So this is where I keep my little stash of hardwoods. So at the other end of my workbench, which also doubles as an outfeed table for my table saw, I've got my Evolution Rage 5S table saw. Like I said, I salvage a lot of stuff that I can. I get a lot of stuff second hand. This is the most expensive tool you'll find in my workshop as it stands, and I bought it for the princely sum of 330 quid. It's not a bad table saw. There's definitely things that could be better about it, but actually for the price, I think it's probably one of the better table saws you can get. I've built mine on a base within the frame of this, so this mobile stand that it comes with just sits underneath here in case I ever sell it or need to use it for something on a job or something. But yeah, I've built it in. I've set out the wing and built a little wooden insert for it, just so I've got a solid station to work from, and it works really well. So above my table saw, I've got my sanding station. There's also a window here. I've got some reflective film on this, so actually you can't see in from the outside, just to stop all the naughty people coming in. I quite like the natural light coming in. This was all boarded up when I first got this thing, and I ripped it out, and the natural light made such a massive difference. And then yeah, I've got this sanding station here. I pinched the design off Steve Ramsey, Woodworking for Mere Mortals. I saw it in his workshop, it looked really cool, so I paused it, drew a quick sketch out, and this is kind of my version of that station. So I've got a couple of drawers here. These drawers actually come in really useful. Keep a load of my sanding stuff in here, and then in my top one I've got all my blades. I keep blades. I've got little adjustment tools in here, and I keep a phone charger in here. Actually, I film on my phone, so it's quite useful for me to have a phone charger in here, but actually just having something like that in the workshop makes life a lot easier. I've got a few different sanders. I've got this little detail sander here, which doesn't really get much use. I've got this random orbital sander, which gets a hell of a lot of use, and this belt sander, which somewhat tend to be going for my random orbital though most times, and this thing hasn't done me wrong yet. So I've shown you a lot of tools here today, but just remember I've built this collection up over a number of years, and a lot of them were bought second hand. If you're wondering where to get started, then you should watch this video right here, which tells you exactly what tools I think you should buy first when you're starting out. And I've even got a set of free plans for you to build your first project as well. Check it out, and I'll see you next time. Say bye, Derek. Bye, Derek.